Gundam started with a war fought with giant robots called mobile suits, and the Gundam was the strongest one. Over the years, this has led to sequels, prequels, side stories, alternate universes, self-parody, and of course the sale of various Gundam merchandise, especially the plastic model kits called Gunpla. Even though this show is all about celebrating Gundam, I never felt like I had to rely on my knowledge of Gundam to enjoy the show. Build Divers treats the Gundam franchise as a franchise, and instead of battling with mobile suits, they battle with Gunpla. Riku's the viewpoint character, so he's got that shonen anime optimism, he gets character growth at different points in the show, and for Build Divers, I think he's supposed to represent an average Gundam fan. Yuki's the Gundam expert, and Momo just learned what Gundam is. That just leaves Sarah, who doesn't even have a Gunpla. This type of balance lets characters explain things to each other, and by extension the audience, without it feeling like exposition. The rest of the characters seem to follow the rule, the more screen time you have, the more fleshed out your character is. Most of the show takes place in this massive online virtual world called Gunpla. And the explanation for how the virtual reality works doesn't really need to be explained because this is very much a future fantasy show. This means the show requires a certain level of suspension of disbelief.
GBN はあくまで仮想現実。ダイバーは疲れ知らずで、たとえライフをロストしても、多少のペナルティでリスタートできる。
Despite having this clearly defined death mechanic, all the heroes have plot armor. I think this was done so the Gunpla can feel more like an extension of the heroes, and GBN feels more like a destination and less like a video game. The show does throw in some different Gunpla battles to keep things interesting. With GPD, the Gunpla actually gets damaged. There's a battle with a special respawn mechanic, and there's even a Gunpla building competition. As for the battles themselves, it's clear some episodes got more of the show's animation budget than others, and that's not a bad thing. Episode 1 needs to make a good first impression. Episode 13 can take full advantage of the animation budget to show the impact of the battle. Cost-saving measures like reusing stock footage, giving characters a limited wardrobe, aren't really a problem because they don't negatively impact the show. While I wouldn't call the comedy scenes hilarious, unless you get the Gundam references, they do serve a purpose. They're there to break up the larger scenes. Music is handled quite effectively, especially when the scenes feel like they're molded around the song. The first 3 episodes establish the core premise of the show. Riku's excited about GBN, he wants to learn new things, get stronger, etc., and the villain for the first half are the mass divers, players who are using these cheating devices called brake decals, and one of the side effects of their cheating is that it's causing these glitches. Heroes versus cheaters, fighting to save the virtual world. It's a cliche, but it works.
その時はすごく落ち込んでて、あまり外にも出なくなっちゃって。このままじゃまずいって思って展示ブースに並べるためのガンプラを作ってもらうことにしたの。口ではやる気出ないとか言ってるけど、ちゃんと仕上げてくるし。
Episode 6 is when the show gets interesting. Koichi is an obsolete Gundam fan. What happens when something you care about turns into something you just do because that way you're doing something?
いつから僕は自分の好きなものを素直に好きって言えなくなったんだろう。
This is a show with plenty of interesting story potential, and when handled correctly, we get things like, as cliche as this sounds, the dark side of fandoms. Then there's Ayame's old force, a perfect example of fair weather friends. Everything's fine when we're winning, but if we're losing...
普通、あんなとこでヘマするかよ。やめろ！
Everyone stops playing GBN and starts playing the blame game. That just leaves ultimate disgruntled Gundam fan Shiba.
そう思うのはお前がブレイクデカールなんてインチキばっかりに一生懸命で本当のガンプラバトルをしたことがないから。
お前こそ触れたことないくせして本当の
This is a perfect example of the show leaving these little breadcrumbs that in hindsight, when you realize what they were hinting at, you go, Oh, glitches were shown in the first episode, and then explained in the third episode, but in hindsight, the glitched Leo was the only one that didn't despawn. Then there's episode 6, which establishes GPD, and then in episode 13, it's revealed that Sheba's another one of those obsolete Gundam fans who prefers GPD, so in hindsight, him getting upset at Riku is understandable. Riku just said, "You don't know what it's like to have a real Gunpla battle." The only minor complaint I have about Sheba is the massive plot convenience that he knows Koichi. Everything else is perfect. Sheba is an elitist who hates GBN because from his perspective, Gundam has gotten worse just to appeal to those who don't even know how to appreciate it. After the heroes save GBN from all the glitches, GBN is still having glitches because it turns out GBN accidentally created an artificial life form. And since GBN's not supposed to do that, it's causing all the glitches. The heroes want to save Sarah by transferring her to the real world, even though if this fails, it's going to destroy GBN. The admins, on the other hand, have a simpler solution. Just get rid of the source of the glitches, as in, kill Sarah.
そんなことすりゃログインするたびにあの子の顔がちらついてゲームを楽しむどころじゃなくなっちまう。
While not as strong as the first half's look at the dark side of fandoms, this still shows how some people want to risk everything in the hopes of saving everyone, and others take the approach that sacrificing some is a necessary evil, and they try to rationalize it as best they can.
輝きを未来の光を見せてもらいました。なに、もし GBN がなくなってしまったら
Finally, we have being able to move on versus being stuck in the past. These are the elements that help Build Divers be more than just a lighthearted celebration of Gundam. Unfortunately, there's also some cases of lazy writing in the show. Pay no attention to how cameras work because we couldn't come up with a better way for these characters to meet each other. Cozy trades away the friendship Gunpla, so now Ayame has a motivation. It's not a good motivation, but it's technically a motivation. And how do we save GBN from the glitches? Magic MacGuffin wings, powered by good vibes. I can accept that the wings were part of Sarah's powers and maybe they work on a subconscious level. The same way I can accept that Riku forgets to tell the Coalition how the odds of success have gone from 5% to 12%. The actual science behind it isn't important. The important part is the emotion behind it. But then the show gets to the point where they have to make sure they do everything, even if it's at the show's detriment. We have to do Tiger versus Shoffrey, but Shoffrey can't be the villain, so... We'll just ruin Shoffrey's character and hope nobody notices. And I hope nobody remembers Ayame has a stealth Gunpla with the perfect counter for Kyoya's Gunpla, because this has to just be Kyoya versus Riku. I hope nobody's wondering how Ogre was able to form an alliance with the Build Divers without the Build Divers approving said alliance, because the show doesn't have time to explain that. Riku defeats the Gunpla champion and rescues Sarah, thereby convincing everyone to believe in the impossible. This show always manages to have an effective balance between showing the heroes overcoming challenges, while still respecting the fact that most people watching this know the heroes are going to succeed. The plan works, the heroes get to celebrate, and the show ends with an optimistic look to the future.
みんなともっといろんな経験をしてもっともっと成長したいだから行ってみよう新しい場所へ了解俺たちの新しい世界へ
I call these reviews Gunpla Art Online, because my first impression was, Gundam's doing virtual reality because Sword Art Online is popular. I was pleasantly surprised, but I still think they could have done more with the series. If you're looking for a simple story, this'll get the job done, and if you're looking for something a bit more complex, you almost have to be willing to meet the show halfway and accept its limitations. I think it's worth the effort. This is the Hypervisor, signing off.